6 months ago, I mentioned offhandedly in a video at the Midwest Gaming Classic that I was beginning the Summer of Sega. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to Square Pegs. And what the Summer of Sega ended up being was a series of collection goals and an opportunity for me to really focus in my collecting habits and kind of just go from being someone who was just buying anything I wanted to really drilling down and focusing on just Sega products. And I had a really, really good time. So today what I want to do is I want to recap. So today what I want to do is recap, and actually recap does fit because some of the games aren't great, but I want to recap the 60 plus games and items that I picked up this year featuring Sega, and we'll do a quick talk on each one, show off a little gameplay, and then we'll recap and start talking about what our next focus is here at the end. And I think it's probably apparent that we're going to be doing a lot of Genesis stuff on this video, so I think we're going to start there and we'll kind of work our way around. So kicking things off, I picked this up in Holland, Michigan. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Hyperstone Heist. This is a repro label, but it is all original other than that. This is something that was for sale at a store up there, and I was really excited to see it because I've legitimately never owned a copy of this until I got this one. It's one of my favorite Ninja Turtles games, probably my favorite Ninja Turtles beat 'em up before Shredder's Revenge, and I'm just really thrilled to have it in the collection now. At the Midwest Gaming Classic, I added a game to my collection that I did not anticipate to be as fun as it is, and it is The Lost World Jurassic Park. I love licensed games. I think, well, I just showed off a Ninja Turtles one, but obviously I like licensed games if I'm willing to take a chance on something like this. And this was one where I did my best games of every year that Genesis is in production. And this was one of the last games made, and I tried it out, and it was a blast. It's really fun. It's a great kind of isometric top-down shooter. I don't really know how to describe it best other than you're going around and shooting poachers, and it's pretty great. One of the greatest games on the Sega Genesis, one of my all-time favorites. This is Comix Zone. This is one that I have owned digitally on other platforms. I used to own it physically. I had it CIB for a while, but I've had to sell it along the way, and I was very excited to add it back to my collection. Very excited to have this one. Super great beat 'em up. If you've never played this one, it's incredibly difficult, but absolutely rewarding and worth playing. Here's a really good example of making sure that you're remembering the right game before you spend money on it, because this is Batman Returns, and what I was expecting was not the Genesis version, which is kind of a hot pile of garbage. The SNES one's a lot more fun, but it's a Batman game, and it's something I want to spend more time with. It's just not the beat 'em up I was expecting it to be. It's kind of a goofy platformer, but here it is. This one, however, is awesome. This is a great game. I got this at Siege. It was a really solid pickup because I had just got the original game in this series sent to me in Video Games Monthly, so to add X-Men 2: The Clone Wars was awesome, and my friend Aldo had just talked about it like 2 days before I saw it at the show, so very excited to have this in the collection. It's a fun game. It's a really solid title, and it's a great platforming beat 'em up. It's definitely worth checking out if you've never played it. Picked this up from my buddy Jay Gaming. Josh is a great dude. I see him at a lot of conventions here around the Midwest, and very excited to add my favorite Genesis game to the collection. This is Toe Jam and Earl. I don't know how I didn't own this anymore. I've got Panic on Funkatron. I just didn't have this one. I was contented to play it either on collections or digitally, or I guess just emulated, and I didn't actually realize I didn't own it until I went to the Midwest Gaming Classic, and I picked it up there. So thank you so much to Josh for selling it to me. I love having it back in the collection. Really, seriously, my favorite Genesis game. Followed closely by one of the greatest platformers of all time. This is Rocket Knight Adventures. Now, if you've never played Rocket Knight Adventures, or as it's known as Sparkster on the Super Nintendo, you absolutely have to. It is one of the best platforming games ever made. It screams Sega Genesis. It's such a fun title, and I am so thrilled to have this one back. I have this digitally on Steam. I think I also have it on my Xbox 360, but I had never actually owned a physical copy until this summer, and I'm very, very happy to have it now. Now, this one is a really fun kind of action RPG. I'd played this on the Sega Genesis Mini, but I didn't really know about this game when I was younger, so I was happy to add it to the collection. This is Light Crusader. This is a game from Treasure. It's a really fun title. It's a little bit wonky sometimes in the controls. It's a little bit unforgiving, but I mean, it's a 16-bit title, so surprise, surprise, but definitely worth playing. I had a lot of fun with this one. Here is a beat-em-up platformer that I was having higher hopes for because I really liked another game in the series, The Death and Return of Superman. This is just Superman. Picked this one up at Siege, and this is one that I think there's something good here. I think there's some solid bones here, but there's also some very kind of cumbersome control schemes happening and just cumbersome way the game plays, and it's not really my favorite, but I'm gonna give some more time to it, but always happy to play a Superman game. Here's one I expected to be awful, and I have a lot of fun playing this one, which I'm really surprised by. This is Sonic 3D Blast. Now, it's not any of the classic 2D platformer Sonics, but it's actually competently designed. I'm having a lot of fun, like I said, playing this one. I'm looking forward to spending more time with it. One of my favorite fighting games and an absolutely spectacular title, Samurai Showdown, is money. It's just legit great. There's so many memorable characters in there, and it's an SNK fighter, so of course I'm going to love it. But this one is absolutely fantastic. I picked this up in Columbus when we were in town for Korg's. Don't remember what store I got it at, but it was after the show. And I really, really do enjoy this one. This is a great game. A little bit less than classic SNK games like King of Fighters or Samurai Showdown, but still a fun SNK title nonetheless. This is a fun arcade fighter. This is the King of the Monsters. Now, King of the Monsters is kind of a kaiju battle game, and it does a lot of stuff really creatively, like the city is fully destructible, but a little bit clunky in areas, a little bit hard to play at times, but I do enjoy it, and I do think it's a ton of fun, and I'm happy to have it, and I want to spend more time with it. This is a game we used to play on our Friday night fight sessions where we did a bunch of fighting game tournaments, and this is one that used to get tossed in for one of the rounds, and happy to have it back. It is a fun game. We're going to go to some Electronic Arts games now, and these are all loose for right now. There are going to be some CIB ones, and one very interesting one that's in a case here at the end for the Genesis stuff, but right now, yeah, it's loose. And we're going to start things off with two gifts from my friend Justin. Now, Justin gave me this one at the Midwest Gaming Classic. This is Shaq Fu, which hilariously, I popped this into my Retron to get footage, and it actually had a pop-up that said, "We suggest you play a better game," which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Look, Shaq Fu is nothing to write home about. It's nothing special, but there are some great memories wrapped up in this game where we were just goofing on it for hours and hours and hours on end when I was a kid. It's not good. It's a terrible title, but I'm really happy to own it, and I thank Justin for getting it for me because it's such a weird footnote in video game history that you can't help but, I don't want to say love it, but at least appreciate it. Another one from Justin, which is accurately described to me as the kind of landing missions of Mass Effect, just in 16-bit form. This is Starflight. Now, I will admit I'm having a bit of a hard time playing it because I don't have the instruction manual and I don't know exactly what's going on with the game, but I see the promise, and this is something I want to spend a lot more time with and find all of the materials needed so I can make sure I'm playing it effectively. Very cool game though, and this is not one I ever knew existed. I got this one at Southeast Game Exchange. I think I spent $5 on it, and it's a steal because it's a wonderful baseball game. Looks beautiful on the Genesis and just feels like a classic SNK game come to life because, hey, it is. Just happened to be published by Electronic Arts here in the States. This is Super Baseball 2020. If you haven't played this one, this is a baseball game that takes place in the future. And you get to play as robots, and it's a really, really excellent title. There's some different rules in play too, where the field is laid out a little bit differently than traditional baseball, but absolutely worth checking out. If you like baseball video games, this one needs to be on your list. Probably the biggest pickup I had from Electronic Arts, and one that was just so wonderful to pop in and play again. I actually ended up playing this for a couple of hours when I got the footage for it, and I was excited about that because it holds up so well. It's brilliant. This is Mutant League Football. Now, I got Mutant League Football at one of our local shops here in town, Replay It Retro up in Paw Paw, Michigan. Replay It Retro is probably my favorite local store. They are lovely people. They have a fantastic shop. I wish they were open more hours, but I understand that this is a hobby side hustle for them. And the store is great. They do amazing work there. Their stuff is always pristine. It always runs right out the gate. I didn't have to worry about cleaning this. It was absolutely perfect when I picked it up, and I'm so happy to have Mutant League Football in the collection. Now I just need to track down Mutant League Hockey, which is a little bit more expensive, but something I definitely want to get. All right, one of my favorite memories this year was the Midwest Gaming Classic. I've mentioned it a couple of times in this video, and one of the things that I did was I was a guest on the bonus stage panel, and my panel was a $100 challenge. I had $100 in my pocket when I got to the show, and I had to go around and basically build a collection of Genesis games that I didn't already have that I felt were worth buying and worth having in any collection. And I wanted to show you the games I picked up right now. So first up, another Electronic Arts game. And if you like Road Rash, this one needs to be on your list because it is a love letter to Road Rash just on inline skates, and it is called Skitchin'. Now, if you don't know what Skitchin' is grabbing onto the back of a car when you're on inline skates and using that as a way to propel your momentum. And this is a video game about that with all the vehicular combat that you're used to from Road Rash. It's fantastic. Absolutely love it. It's the identical engine to Road Rash and absolutely worth playing. It's one of my favorites. It's so much fun. Next up, one of the best licensed games on the Genesis. And yes, that is saying a lot. There's some really great ones on there, but this is one I particularly love because it's just super fun. In fact, it's a super fun house. This is Krusty's super fun house. This is, I can't remember the name of it. Please someone let me know in the comments. This is based off of an Amiga game, I want to say. Might have been a ZX Spectrum, I don't remember, but it's based off of a pre-existing computer title, and they reskinned it with Krusty and Bart and Matt Groening designed rats. And basically the idea is you capture the rats and Bart squishes them, and it's a puzzle platformer, and it's fantastic. It is something that I fully anticipated being terrible. I did my Simpsons ranking video earlier in the year, link on screen right now if you want to check that out. And I was blown away by it. It is so much more fun than I anticipated. I absolutely adore it. Worth checking out if you've never played it. This one I picked up because I'm a huge fan of the NES game, and I had realized I'd never actually played the arcade version, so getting Strider was a pretty cool treat. It's a really solid game. It's also a really balls difficult game. It's incredibly hard, but I had a lot of fun with it, and it's something that I've gone back to a few times. I haven't beaten it yet, but it's nice to have that arcade action. Like, that's one of the things I think the Genesis did incredibly well, was that it just made arcades at home, and that was such a cool feeling and such a great thing to experience. Another awesome licensed game, a great platformer with a lovable character that no one sees anymore because he's been banished to, I guess, the Shadowlands. But this is Cool Spot, and we're going to cover up that phone number. This is Cool Spot. This is a game that is so much better than it has any right to be. You play as the 7-Up mascot, the red dot that's on the 7-Up can, and you have sunglasses and you go around and you shoot stars at bad guys. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Another great platformer with a run and gun attitude. This is Vector Man. This is a great game. It's one that really shows off the power of the Genesis. It's a lot of fun. I didn't love it when I was younger, but I'm having a lot more fun with it now. Definitely worth checking out if you have a Sega Genesis. Great game. One of the best. Arguably better on the Super Nintendo, but I do love the Genesis release as well. This is Zombies Ate My Neighbors from Konami. Fantastic title. You're going around saving the townspeople, killing the zombies with your holy water squirt guns, I guess, for lack of a better term. And you have to collect everybody, then get to the exit. It's a fantastic game. It screams 1994 to me. Like, it feels like a classic LucasArts title, and it's absolutely worth playing. Final game I got for that panel in the $100 challenge is Kid Chameleon. This is one that I had never played before I got my Sega Genesis Mini. It's a really solid game. It feels like a classic Sega game. It feels like an Alex Kidd title. It's definitely worth picking up, though. Had a lot of fun with it. It's not 100% great, but it's not terrible either. I actually have a lot of fun with this game. I think it's definitely worth playing. Okay, 2 more loose games, then we'll get to the CIB stuff for the Genesis, and they're 2 classic RPGs. And up first is Phantasy Star 3. This was the first Phantasy Star game I ever played as a kid. Absolutely adore this game. I love the story in Phantasy Star. I love how deep it is. I love the lore behind it. I love everything that it does. I just think it's a wonderful title. I think it's a wonderful series of games, and I was very excited to add it to the collection. Got to get the rest of them now, of course, but this one is really cool to have, and it was nice to reacquire something I owned when I was younger that I don't own anymore. But the RPG I am most excited about, and one thing that I didn't expect to find, it was one of my goals to find it at Southeast Game Exchange, and I was excited to see it, is Shining Force 2. I love the Shining Force series. I love Camelot Software. So anything that they have done or been involved with, even when they weren't known as Camelot, is aces to me. And Shining Force 2 is one of the best RPGs of all time. It's a tactical strategy game. It's a ton of fun. It's got some incredible characters, awesome combat, great world design, beautiful music. It's kind of the whole package. All right, one now from my friends at Retrobit. Now, I had never played this game. I did not know much about it when they asked me to cover it. I was happy to do so, and they sent me a copy of it for my efforts. This is Eliminate Down. This is a fantastic shmup. Stupid hard. Stupid hard, but so damn good. It's a wonderful game. The music in the game is incredible. It is fast and fluid and fun. It really shows off what the Genesis is capable of doing. And the cartridge is clear, translucent green with some sparkles in it. You can't go wrong with that. Another pickup from Replay It Retro, one of my favorite games on the Genesis, a classic, an original release. This is Altered Beast. This is a CIB copy. If you've never played Altered Beast, hi, welcome to 2024. It is a classic side-scrolling beat-em-up where the levels kind of loop if you don't have all the power-ups you need to have. This is the one that goes, "Rise from your grave." Rise from your grave. At the start, it's got some really, I don't want to say great, but it has some digitized voices in it. And it's just classic gameplay action. It's one of my favorites. It was one of my favorite games when I originally had my Genesis. I'm happy to have it back. This one I found at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and I was really excited to see it because I didn't actually know this existed. This is Streets of Rage 2. Now, before you say, Jay, you didn't know Streets of Rage 2 existed, you've talked about it numerous times. I have, you're right. But what I didn't know was that there was a not-for-resale copy made of Streets of Rage 2, and I am very, very happy to have it in my collection. Got it for a fantastic deal. It is such a wonderful game, one of the best soundtracks on the Genesis, and probably top 3 beat-em-ups of all time. Like, legit, it's such an excellent game. All right, this one I'm particularly excited about because if you guys have been on the channel for a while, you know I am a huge fan of rental copies of things. And when Game Dad Chris went to a local event, I wasn't able to go that night, he found me a copy of The Adventures of Batman and Robin. And cool enough, it's in a classic Family Video rental case. Family Video was a rental chain, and it's so cool to have it. It's so cool to see it. It's got like hints and tips on the outside of it. It's great. And the game is fantastic. If you haven't played Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Genesis, very different than the Super Nintendo release. It's more Metal Slug than anything, but definitely worth checking out. And the biggest Genesis get I got for the entire year, again, picked up for me by Game Dad at the Utah Retro Gaming Expo, is Gunstar Heroes. This is legitimately probably a top 3 Genesis game. Like, I can't think of too many more that I would play before that one. Like Toe Jam and Earl, yes. Maybe Shining Force, maybe Sonic 2, but Gunstar Heroes is way, way, way up there. It's such an excellent title, absolutely fantastic gameplay, incredibly fast, like no slowdown whatsoever in the game. It's absolutely brilliant. If you've never played it, you need to either here on the Genesis or find the Gunstar Superheroes release on the Game Boy Advance. Absolutely worth checking out. All right, gonna go rapid fire through some Game Gear games as I got my Ultimate Game Gear this year for my birthday from Kristen Thor. Viewer named Jean-Francois sent me a bunch of stuff. He's a great guy. We talk pretty much once or twice a week. He's a great guy from Montreal, and he sent me 5 Game Gear games, and I wanted to thank him personally for that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And the games are Evander Holyfield Real Deal Boxing, which is a really cool title. Kind of Punch-Out vibes, but a little bit harder than Punch-Out, actually. It was a little bit difficult to play. It was a neat idea. I just need to spend more time with it. Up next, World Series Baseball 95. This is fantastic. Classic baseball action. It plays just like really any other 8 or 16-bit baseball game you've ever played. It's brilliant. It's absolutely wonderful. Next up, one that I didn't expect to enjoy nearly as much. This is Olympic Gold Lillehammer 94. I'm not good at it, but all of the games are really fun on it. It's a series of Olympic-based mini-games, and they're all really good. Like, I have a lot of fun with it, and I did not expect that at all. Next up, of course, I'm gonna love this one. This is my favorite sport from my favorite series. This is NHL Hockey, not one that I ever owned. Happy to put it onto the NHL shelf. It's a great game. It plays brilliantly well. Just like any other EA Sports NHL game, it's fantastic. And the final one he sent me was not a sports game. This is Mortal Kombat 2. Now, Mortal Kombat 2 plays brilliantly well on the Game Gear. It looks really good. It's fun to play. It's limited, obviously, because of just the nature of the system, but it's actually a really, really solid port, and I had a lot of fun playing it. I'm not great at Mortal Kombat, I never have been, but it's a really fun game to play, and it looks spectacular on that new Game Gear. Here's one I found while we were in Columbus, I want to say for Korgs. It might have been a little bit before or after that, I can't remember exactly when, but this is Sonic Triple Trouble. I already had Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 on the Game Gear from Thor and Chris, and this one is continuing that series, and it's a solid game. It's really good. They're all very similar to the Master System Sonics, which are great games. They're just very different than the 16-bit Sonics, so if you go in with an open mind on it, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun. But the one that was really exciting for me, and the one that I did not expect to find, because I found this before GameStop had kind of set up their retro store thing that's going on now, but my local store is actually one of the GameStop retros, and I went in there one day, and the manager, who's a friend of mine, said, hey, guess what? We got some Game Gear games in, and one of them was Shinobi 2. And it's amazing. It's so good. It's such a great interpretation of what Shinobi is and Shinobi could be. It's just a ton of fun. Very excited to have this one. And it's cool to see the retro games at GameStop. It's not perfect yet, but it's still cool to see. And I'm excited for the possibility of what it could be down the road. Right now, yeah, it needs some work, but there's a chance for something cool to happen here. Hey, I'm gonna pause here real quick and say thank you for being here thus far. I really appreciate you guys watching. This is a long video and there's a lot of pickups to go through, but I do appreciate you being here. If you're enjoying this one, why don't you click that subscribe button down below, stick around. Going for 15K by the end of the year, but let's wrap it up. Let's get back to the rest of the games. Okay, moving on to the Xbox 360. Now we're just gonna be bouncing all over the place because there's all kinds of consoles that I've got bought stuff for So we're just going to look at everything real quick. This is Sonic's Ultimate Sega Genesis Collection. Now, there's so many games on this. There's over 40 titles on this game. It's amazing. Like, I'm a sucker for any kind of Genesis collection. I love the Sega Genesis collection on the Switch. I've got one on Steam. I've got one, gosh, a lot of places now that I'm thinking about it, but this one's fantastic, and it's just a great collection of games with a ton of really good ones on here. It's got Golden Axe, Streets of Rage 2, Sonic 2, Altered Beast, bunch of titles that you're able to play. It plays brilliantly well on the 360. It's awesome to have this. I really love it. We're gonna sandwich the good with the bad here because I want to give kind of the crap part of the Sega purchase here for the 360, and that is Viking Battle for Asgard. Now, it could just be that I haven't spent enough time with it yet. As you can see here, this footage is just from the intro level from the tutorial, but controls are kind of clunky. It's kind of ugly. It's not really my thing. I want to spend some more time with it to see if it picks up, but this one, I don't know if it's going to hang around for a long time, but it's nice to see the Sega badge on something that I didn't expect, that I didn't even know existed. So you need to spend more time with it. We'll see if it gets better. At least the cover's cool. It's shiny, at least. This one, however, here's the good part of it, the outside positivity of this kind of crap sandwich that is Viking Battle for Asgard. This is Sonic Generations. This one's really cool. You get to play as both classic Sonic and modern Sonic. The gameplay is really good. It's fast. It's a decidedly good experience. It's something that I want to spend more time with, something that I had a lot of fun playing, and definitely worth checking out. I was really surprised by it because this kind of time frame for Sonic games wasn't exactly great. Like, there's some ones coming up on the Wii and on the PS3 that are just not good. But this one, I was really surprised by. I actually had I really had a lot of fun with this one. Let's just rip off the garbage Band-Aid here. So we're gonna do PS3 now, and we're gonna talk about two really awful games, and one game that is objectively not great, but I happen to love. And it's not great that it's a bad game, it's just that it's really buggy. But first up, Aliens Colonial Marines. Now, I am not a huge Alien fan. I am a fan of first-person shooters. I don't play a ton of them on the channel just because it doesn't really go with the content I usually feature, but I do like a good first-person shooter, and while I'm not a huge Alien fan, I love the Xenomorph design, and I was excited to try this one out. And I think the single-player campaign actually has some promise. Now, I've been told the multiplayer was atrocious, and mercifully the servers are no longer online as far as I'm aware, so I don't really have to worry about that. But single player, there's definitely something here. At the very least, it looks nice, which is great, because from what I understand, the multiplayer is terrible, like I said, but single player, not bad. One that is a buggy game, but I absolutely really enjoy, and something that I have a lot of fun with, and I've played it for years on Steam, and I never owned it on a console, but I picked it up recently, Alpha Protocol. This is a spy-based RPG where you're going through and you're solving mysteries and using your spy abilities. It was something that I discovered in a year we were calling the Year of the Spy, where we were just doing, like, ingesting all kinds of spy content and playing all kinds of spy games. It's a really interesting take on espionage action in video games, and I really like it. It's not perfect. There's a lot of problems with it, but I do enjoy it. Now, one that I was convinced I was going to like. There was no way that this game could be even remotely as awful as everyone told me it was, but it is. This game's just bad. The controls are bad. The load times are atrocious. Now, you can just say, but it's the PS3. Yes, I'm aware that it's just the PS3, but the load times are so bad. The gameplay is not great. The look is kind of muddy. It's just, not a good game. For something that I expected to enjoy because there was no way it could be as bad as everyone said it was, super disappointing to play. All right, the Wii, kind of like the PS3, is a sandwich of good and bad. And good is... Now, I'm not saying I'm 100% right, because one of the games that I'm saying is bad is something I definitely need to spend more time with, but capturing footage for this video, the tutorial sucked. It was boring as hell, but we'll go through. One that I expected to not enjoy nearly as much as I did with Sonic Unleashed. I really expected Sonic the Werehog to be a stupid idea, and I think to be fair, it is kind of a stupid idea, but the game is actually really fun. I enjoyed this one a lot. I'm going to spend more time with it. I think it's well designed. I think it looks pretty good, and the sound is great on it, so no real complaints. One that I wanted to be good that I think probably multiplayer would be a lot more fun, but single player is a snooze fest, is The remake of Alien Syndrome, it's just not great. One I expected to be good based on the cover, because I actually kind of really like the cover design, but I just didn't get into, is Sonic and the Secret Rings. Now this is the one I'm talking about where the tutorial is super boring. It is the same tutorial over and over and over again. Now, I need to spend more time with it because what I was able to play just was not great, but looking at the screenshots on the back, it looks like there's more varied gameplay. It's just the tutorial is immense. It takes forever, and that is not something I want to be really stuck with. Like, it just, I don't know, just kind of a crappy game design to get you hooked at the start. But what is a good game design and what makes perfect use of the Wii Remote and everything the Wii Remote is capable of is the Conduit. Wow, what a great first-person shooter. Now, this is one I'd heard about for years, and I knew was going to be a good experience, but didn't expect it to be as good as it is. I am literally blown away by how good of a game that is, and I'm thrilled to have it in my collection because just what a cool concept and what a great implementation. Like perfect work here by High Voltage Studios doing this one. Glad Sega published it, but High Voltage really shone through with what they're capable of. GameCube now, and this is one I picked up because of my friend G to the Next Level. If you watched my GameCube Killer Filler video from earlier in the year, he brought up Home Run King, which is classic baseball game. It's a really solid title. It's arcade action, but it plays it close to the chest. It doesn't go like ridiculously over the top, but it is definitely an arcade game. It's really fun though. I really had a lot of fun with it. It's a very unique kind of batting mechanic, which I didn't expect. I'm excited to spend more time with that one. And it's cool to kind of see the rosters from the baseball teams back in like 2003 or 2004 when it released. It's pretty cool. 2001, I'm sorry. All right, moving on to the Wii U now. We're gonna go first with a game that I will be honest, I haven't had a chance to play. This footage is from Game Dad. Thank you so much for capturing it. My disc wouldn't read, which sucks, but this is Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. Just needs a good cleaning or a resurfacing. I'll take it into my local shop and get that done. But here's footage. I don't know anything about it other than it has a really bad Metacritic rating, so I'm assuming it's not a great game, but the cover looked cool at the very least, so yeah, that's why I bought it. I judged a game by its cover. One I am having fun with. I got this up in Holland, Michigan this summer. This is Sonic and All-Star Racing's Transformed. I love this game. I had this originally on Steam, and I think it is absolutely wonderful. It is one of my favorite kart racers ever made. I think it's an absolutely brilliant design. It's executed almost flawlessly. There's a couple of like small, minute things that I would change about it, but overall I think that is a fantastic game. And while it is weird that we have Danica Patrick and Wreck-It Ralph on the Nintendo release as the special characters, it's a fun-ass game, and it's cool. You get to play as Alex Kidd. How great is that? Sega Saturn now going with a classic Japanese fighting game, since my Sega Saturn will play both US and Japanese releases. This is Virtua Fighter Kids, and I didn't go into a lot of expectations on this one. I picked this up from Gamers for Gamers at Siege this year, and I really didn't know what to think of it, and I got it home and played it, and it's an absolute blast. It's Virtua Fighter. They're just chibi. You can't ask for more than that. Two games now on the Dreamcast, two of my favorite games that I got this summer, actually, and they're both not super high impact price-wise. First up is NHL 2K. This is, again, I mentioned this when I was talking about the NFL 2K series in my retro sports video from last week. This is when there was competition for EA, and it really pushed EA to their limits, and this game is spectacular. It's such a fun game. I wish the NHL 2K series was still around. It lasted, gosh, up until 2009, 2010, something like that, maybe a little bit past that, but yeah, just the last 15 years we've had nothing, and the series has struggled for it. That sucks. One that has not struggled, though, and one that I am excited to have officially in my collection. I've had it on Steam for years, but I haven't owned the game. I haven't owned the Dreamcast version, gosh, in 20 years. Is Crazy Taxi, and I'm so excited to have it because it's one of the signature Dreamcast games to me. It's one that when I think of the Dreamcast, that's one of the first titles I think of. It's just a brilliant game. So happy to have it back. So happy to be able to play it whenever I want on a disc, on a console that I love, with the controller it was meant to be played with. Nintendo Switch now. We're going first with Sonic Colors Ultimate. This is interesting. I don't know enough about it yet. I had actually owned it previously and sold it and bought it back because I still had the box with the day one purchase bonus in it, and I wanted to kind of get it back and give it another shot. Haven't had a chance to play it again since, but happy to have it at the very least. I have this dream of owning every Sonic game ever made, and I'm probably about 70% of the way there. I thought I was a lot closer. I think I mentioned a few months back actually. I think I mentioned a few months back that I thought I was really close to completing the Sonic collection. No. But this gets me a little bit closer, and so does this one here on the Switch. This is Sonic Forces, and this is one I was actually kind of surprised by because it's a weird concept. Like, you start the game and you're playing as Sonic, and Sonic dies. Theoretically, he's not actually dead. But you have to recruit characters, and you get to create a character, and the character just fits seamlessly into the game, and that's you control for the rest of it, and at least as far as I've seen thus far. And it plays pretty well. Like, it's weird. It's a different type of Sonic game, but it's not bad. I'm actually pretty pleased that I own it. It's much better than I thought it was going to be. These three, back to back to back, I picked up all three of these this summer, and I'm very happy to have it because I love the GBA. I love Sonic games. So up first, Sonic Advance. Really happy to have this one. Classic 2D Sonic action. THQ published these. Sonic Team developed them. They're really fun games, as is Sonic Advance 2 and Sonic Advance 3. They're all really good games. I'm very happy to have them. Sonic Advance 3 was actually suggested to me by Chris from Game Dad Show, and he's got great taste in games, so no surprise, he was right about it, and very, very happy to have it. Very happy to play these. It's great to be able to play them on the go, great to be able to play them in my Game Boy player on my GameCube. They're just great games. Really happy to have them. Bear with me, we're almost done. We're getting towards the end now. There's actually 2 more game pickups to go, but I've got some non-game stuff that I picked up as well. And up first is a gift from a former coworker and a Patreon supporter and a viewer of the channel, and it's from my friend John. John sent me a stack of Dreamcast magazines. These are awesome. They also came with the demo discs, which I still need to do shorts on, but I'll get there eventually, I promise. But it's so cool to have these. I love classic video game magazines, and these are some of the best. One of the things I added to the game room when I moved up to the new location is a Sonic the Hedgehog cable guy. Now, if you don't know what cable guys are, they're basically designed to hold your controllers so you can display them. And this one's great because it not only holds my controller here in Sonic's hands, I can put my headphones up here on the top, and this one lights up, which is super cool. I'd plug it in, but it takes the USB-C, and I'm not near my desk. A couple of toys to add to the collection. This is Axel from Streets of Rage. This is a Walmart exclusive figure. These things are great. They're like 10 bucks, tons of articulation, and it's nice to be able to add some Sega stuff to the shelves that are toys. I also picked up this one. I got this one at Target on clearance. This is a Knuckles action figure. Well, not really action figure. He's more of just a kind of display statue, but super cool to have Knuckles. I love these holding the Chaos Emerald. I think that's pretty awesome. Couple of gifts now from my friend Owazram. His channel is linked on screen right now. Paul's a great guy. He sent me a couple of things at the start of the summer to celebrate this Summer of Sega pickups, and one of the things was something I'd been looking for ages, and it is an OEM Sega Master System controller. Now, this is something that I've wanted because I didn't have an original. I had a remake from my friend Brian at BD Retro Mods. I had one that is both designed after an NES Dogbone controller as well as an arcade stick, but really wanted something original. So Paul sent this to me. I really appreciate him doing so. I think that's super cool of him. And he also sent me a game for a console I don't own that I will own one day because I need to have every single Sega console in my collection. And that is for the SG-1000. This is Champion Baseball. I don't know anything about it. Never played it. Never taken the time to emulate it, and I don't want to because this is something I need to play on original hardware, but this is so cool to have and such a neat thing to have in my collection, and I cannot tell him how much I appreciate it. He's such a wonderful guy, such a great friend of the channel, and I thank him immensely for this. All right, last pickup, and this one is going to be a pathway into my next series of videos. Not to be all done at once, but there will be another one on Friday kind of covering everything, but if you guys remember at Siege, I picked up a Neo Geo Pocket Color, and I decided then and there, thanks to some helpful prodding from Andy from Pac-Man Case, that I should be going for the full Neo Geo Pocket Color set. And I've been plugging away at it for the last few months, but this past week in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Exchange, I was very lucky to be taken there by our friends Andy and his wife, Lindsay LL Cool Games, and Andy let me know excitedly that this exchange had a bunch of Neo Geo Pocket Color games in it. And I said, there needs to be one, because this is how we cap off the Summer of Sega. And we cap off the Summer of Sega with Sonic Pocket Adventure Color. I love it. I am absolutely enthralled with this. I'm so excited collecting for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. It's something that I've long adored and long had a lot of love for. And the decision to go after the full set was not something I took on lightly because it's not the way I collect. But when you love something as much as I love the Neo Geo Pocket Color, it's worthwhile. This game is great. It plays beautifully well. It runs wonderfully. It is a picture-perfect pocket-sized Sonic adventure, and I am so excited to have it as the capstone to my Summer of Sega. There you have it. 60 plus pickups, all featuring Sega stuff, all just things that I love. I am so thrilled to have been able to go after this year, and I thank you all for supporting me in doing so. Thank you for sticking around and watching this pickups video. It's going to be long, I know it is, but I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate you all being a part of this. And what a great year. I don't know that I will ever do this again. It'll probably be a different theme going forward, especially if this Neo Geo Pocket Color Pursuit takes a while, but it was a really nice exercise in changing the way I collect and kind of thinking about the way I collect, and I had a lot of fun. You know, one of the things that I really like about this pursuit and this kind of idea of changing the way I was collecting and thinking about the way I wanted to collect going forward is that it really made me kind of appreciate more some of the things that I did this summer, like the conventions I went to. Like, I always have fun at shows, but I distinctly remember finding these games now at shows like Korg's, at Southeast Game Exchange, at the Midwest Gaming Classic, at the Cleveland Gaming Classic. There was so much that I discovered and so much fun I had that I'm ecstatic. It was a fun summer, and it was great to add a bunch of Sega stuff to my collection, even if some of it's terrible. But it was still nice to do. It was still nice to have some fun with. And I look forward to doing something like this again down the future. I hope you guys will join me this Friday when I start talking about the Neo Geo Pocket Color Pursuit. But until then, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.